Hello again, vinyl community. This is Matt. A little bit of a different view today for today's video. It's kind of a wider shot. Honestly, I just didn't want to have to move stuff out the way like I normally have to. So anyway, this is going to be a Goodwill haul video. This particular Goodwill, I've had several good scores at in the past, but not for quite a number of months. In fact, probably at least 6 months. But you know, you go in often enough, and you know, you get a little bit lucky, and sometimes you'll find what you're looking for. And I got a great deal. I got 7 cassettes and I think 12 records for $18. In some parts of the country that wouldn't be a great deal, but in Southern California that's a terrific deal. Normally the records are supposed to be $2 each, but you know, it doesn't hurt to ask. I asked the guy who was working there if he could just, you know, hook me up with a deal if I bought a bunch of them. And so he said, sure, $1 each. So I was like, yeah, okay. So I'll show you what we've got. And I kind of put the records in order of most common to least common, or well, yeah, my least favorite to favorite. So the first couple are, you know, not really worth much of anything, but I wanted to get them anyway because they were in good condition. And we'll start with the cassettes in just a second too. But yeah, the final record is kind of a little bit of a grail for me. It's a record that I've looked for on eBay and Discogs a number of times, and it's always extremely expensive. So to get it for what ended up being less than $1 was really a great find. So, but that's going to be at the end. So let's start off with the cassettes, and I'm gonna bring them over here to the camera. Okay, and then this way I can sit down right here. Okay, here we have 7 tapes. Tom Petty, Wildflowers. Pretty good find, I thought, actually. This is a Digilog tape, so mastered from digital, which is fine by me. They started doing that in like the late 80s, went into the early 90s, and it did improve the reproduction quality, actually, to be honest. So yeah, I'm trying to see what year. I think this is from the early 90s. What year is this from? This is from, oh, mid-90s, 94. I thought it was a couple of years earlier than that. So, okay, so already we were off to a pretty good start. Next up we have Billy Ocean, Love Zone. I do have this on vinyl, but I couldn't buy it. I'm not just going to leave a cassette sitting there. Not if it's one that I might listen to. And you know, this has When the Going Gets Tough on it, the title track Love Zone, and there'll be sad songs to make you cry. So yeah, again, I do have it on vinyl, but yeah. Next up, Santana's Greatest Hits, and you know, this has got all the kind of classics, you know, Black Magic Woman, Evil Ways, I hope you're feeling better. So, yeah. Next up is Motown Cassette Classic, Every Great Motown Hit of Marvin Gaye. I thought this was kind of a cool find. It's got a lot of tracks on here. Of course, Marvin Gaye had a lot of hits, but it's got everything from, let's see, obviously I heard it through the grapevine, What's Going On, Ain't Nothing Like the Real Thing, Inner City Blues, Mercy Mercy Me, Let's Get It On, etc., etc. It doesn't have Sexual Healing on it, but it looks like this compilation was released in '83. I want to say Sexual Healing came out in like '84. I might be wrong about that. So that, anyway, if I'm right about it, that would explain why it's not on here. Sade, Diamond Lights, and I never knew this about this album. I don't know if it's just on the cassette. I assume it's on the vinyl too, but it actually tells you how to pronounce the name Sade. That's kind of cool. I'm sure when I was a kid I used to call it Sade or something, but yeah. So best two known songs would be Smooth Operator and Your Love Is King. Very cool. And then I was really thrilled to find these. Prince, the Hits 1 and Prince, the Hits Volume 2. So it's sort of a two-part set. Again, these are both Digilog recordings. Kind of see right there. And it covers the whole spectrum from his early career to, you know, whenever these were released, which was, geez, I don't know. Let me see if it has a copyright on here. Possibly 1993, just at a glance. But yeah, I mean, it's everything. You know, we've got Raspberry Beret, I Want to Be Your Lover, Little Red Corvette, I Would Die for You, Kiss. You've got The Look, Purple Rain, and then on this one we've got like When Doves Cry, I Feel For You, Let's Go Crazy, 1999, Nothing Compares to You, of course, famously covered by Sinead O'Connor, Alphabet Street, Sign of the Times, Diamonds and Pearls, and a bunch more besides. So that was already pretty good when I found the cassettes, but let's move on to the vinyl. And here's the stack right here. So again, sort of in order of you know, worst to best in a sense of my favorite and monetary value. But okay, April Wine, The Nature of the Beast. Excuse me. I did not own any April Wine albums. Didn't have any particular aspirations to, but the fact that I was getting it for under $1, I thought, you know what, let's take the plunge. It's in really nice condition too. You can probably see. Next up, the golden hits of the Everly Brothers. I actually thought this was going to be worth more. When I looked it up on Discogs, it's really not. You know, it's worth like a few bucks or something. But it has. you know what? I'm really not too familiar with the Everly Brothers. I do know Kathy's Clown and Crying in the Rain. But it doesn't have like. Didn't the Everly Brothers do Bye Bye Love? I thought, yeah, I'm pretty sure they did. That's not on here, but maybe that was released after. Although this is, it's funny. You look at the sleeve, you would think that this was like an original pressing. It's definitely not. It's definitely a repress from, you know. It's a much more modern Warner Brothers label. But you know, I do like the song "Kathy's Clown" a lot. Actually, one of my favorite songs from the earlier half of the '60s. Next up, we have Eric Clapton, Backless. This will be, I think, the third Clapton album that I now own on the RSO label. Kind of see it right there. I'm not familiar with the track listing at all. A little bit embarrassing, but I think I know the song. Okay, Roll It. I recognize that. Oh, and Promises. Actually, that was released as a single, I think, Promises. So, okay, I guess I know a couple of them. But the sleeve's really interesting. It's textured. You won't be able to tell, obviously, from the camera, but you've got like this rough textured edge to it, and then the photo here is actually stuck on, which kind of adds another layer of texture to it. So again, for under $1, I was happy to get it. Okay, next up is Nazareth, Rampant. Not usually my kind of music. Well, no, that's not true. I don't own anything by Nazareth until now. And released in 1974. I don't know if this is an original press or not. It's on the A&M label. Excuse me. I'm not familiar enough with A&M labels to remember if this is if that's of the time or not. But I don't know the track listing at all. I really don't. Like the only song of Nazareth that I know is like Love Hurts. So, so it's going to be a bit of an education for me. But let's see. It has Silver Dollar Forger, parts 1 and 2. Glad When You're Gone, Loved and Lost, Shanghaied in Shanghai, Jet Lag, Light My Way, Sunshine, Shapes of Things. Okay, I think I know Shapes of Things. And Space Safari. So, still, under $1. Couldn't pass it up. Alright, next up. The Tubes. Self-titled. Don't know anything about it. I know, I think they're like a rock, maybe even a glam rock band. I could be completely mistaken about that, but 1975. It's on the same A&M label as the last record, so maybe there was an original pressing, but yeah, I'm going to be curious to see or listen to what this sounds like. From the research I did, it's probably worth about $10. You know, I'm sure somebody will correct me and say no, it's worth $2 or something, but that was just from the limited research I did on eBay and Discogs. Next up we have Best of the Scorpions. Very pleased to find this. This is obviously of the time. This would have been released in the let's see, it looks like it was released in 77, I think. I'm not very familiar with the Scorpions. I do know, Rock You Like a Hurricane. I know Wind of Change, but that was released in like 91, so that's obviously not going to be on here. I don't think I know the other tracks. Okay, Virgin Killer is the last track on the album. I do know, I'm assuming that's the title track from the Virgin Killer album, which is notorious for its extremely controversial artwork. Probably, I was going to say it's probably out there with Blind Faith's self-titled album, but actually it's worse than that. But anyway, yeah. So this is going to again be an education for me because I really don't know too many of their songs. So I'm kind of expecting with some of these records that when I start playing them, even if I don't recognize the title, I'm going to be, oh, okay, that sounds familiar. But okay, now we're getting into the sort of stuff that probably has a little more value to it monetarily. Again, Best of Scorpions, that's probably like a $10 record, something like that. This is the Sun Story Volume 4, Roy Orbison. This was released in the 70s, I think in 77, I think. And, there's some sort of, I don't know, rules or cliches when it comes to record buying. I think one of them is you never pass up a record that's on the Sun label. So I didn't pass it up. But of course, it's a later Sun pressing, so it's not like it's going to be worth that much. It's not like an Elvis record or something from the Sun catalog. But it's probably worth. I forget. I looked it up. I want to say $15 to $20, something like that. I do already have a Roy Orbison compilation album, but again, I'm not going to pass this up. Not on Sun Records. But this is a little bit different because this only contains the songs that Roy recorded with Sun. Doesn't contain Oh Pretty Woman or some of his later stuff that became more famous. So really going to be interested to listen to some of this. I'm going to assume that I'm not going to know most of the tracks. And I don't recognize many, if any, of the song titles, which suggests they may not be covers. Yeah, Roy wrote some of them, so yeah. But anyway, yeah, very cool. Very pleased to find that. Okay, next up, this I believe is the first pressing of Bob Dylan's John Wesley Harding. Very unusual, at least for me, to find Bob Dylan albums in the wild at thrift stores. I do have his Greatest Hits Volumes 1 and 2. Both of those I did find at a Goodwill some time ago. But I think this is apart from that, this is the only other time that I've found Bob Dylan in the wild. It's in very nice condition. I don't know for sure that it's the first press. It may not be a first pressing, but I'm pretty sure it's early because it's on the white Columbia label, which would definitely date it to the 60s. They started switching to yellow lettering by the time the 70s came around. And let's see, most well-known tracks on here, all along the Watchtower for sure. And it also has, let's see, oh, I'll Be Your Baby Tonight as well. That's also another one that I would definitely know. So yeah, I was really thrilled to find this actually. I don't know what the value is on this. I actually really don't. If it's a first pressing, I don't know, $20 maybe. I'm really not that clued up on what the value is of Bob Dylan records, but yeah, not that I intend to sell it, but it's nice to know the value anyway. Okay, next up, this I've never seen this record before. It's very curious, but The Best of Buddy Holly. This is on Coral record. It's a double record set, and it appears to be quite rare. I had a very hard time finding any copies of this for sale anywhere with this exact cover. So I put it in the ballpark of being a $30 record. I could be, you know, that might be a little bit of wishful thinking on my part, but I really like the label too. It's not going to come out without a fight, but so you can kind of see it through here, Coral. And you know, the condition wasn't, you know, it was just okay. But I figured I'm not going to pass up a double Buddy Holly album, especially one that's clearly an early pressing for this anyway. You know, from I think this was released in the mid-60s, but it's got, yeah, you know, Peggy Sue. Well, that's all I can see on it, but I think it has most of his hits on it. Now, next up, this was a really interesting find, and I just couldn't pass it up. Capitol Hits Through the Years. Capitol, that's the famous Capitol Records building, which it's on Sunset, right? Sunset Boulevard in Los Angeles. I guess I should know. I've been past it a number of times, but yeah, just I saw it and I thought, that's interesting. But what's more interesting is that this I'm pretty sure it's the first pressing, because I doubt they did subsequent pressings of it. But so it's on the Rainbow Capitol label. But if we look more closely, you might notice something here. I don't know if you can kind of tell. It's a bit hard to tell from the video, but it's just one big track on each side. There's no dead wax or track separators, whatever you want to call it. So I'm going to be very curious to listen to that, to see if it's kind of, it must be songs mixed together, because there's a ton of tracks on here. This goes from 1942 up to 1969, and it says to date, so that tells us this was released in 69. And I got a whole bunch of pictures of all the artists. And let me take a year for example. So if we take like 1967, no, 66, that's a better year. Well, it's a better year for the track listing on this record. 1966, there's 6 tracks that are on here from that year, so they probably just play like a minute from each song or something. We've got Beach Boys, Good Vibrations, The Seekers, Georgie Girl, Peter and Gordon, Lady Godiva, Lou Rawls, Love Is a Hurtin' Thing, The Outsiders, and Time Won't Let Me, and the Beatles, Paperback Writer. There's several Beatles songs on here. Of course, in the US they were signed to Capitol. Like 67, we have almost like a medley of Beatles songs. We have Yellow Submarine, Eleanor Rigby, All You Need Is Love, and Strawberry Fields Forever, except they just called it Strawberry Fields. Interesting. But it has like the last item under 1967 is something called Gallant Men by Senator Everett M. Dirksen. Now, I don't know if Everett Dirksen was a U.S. senator and he did a little speech, or I don't know what Gallup Men is. Maybe a poetry reading. I don't know. I'm gonna be interested to find out. You go back further in time. You've got like Nat King Cole. Let's see, who else do I recognize? Okay, Johnny Mercer, Peggy Lee. Dean Martin, okay. Frank Sinatra. This is now in the 50s. Okay, Tennessee Ernie Ford. Grace Kelly, Bing Crosby, Gene Vincent, okay, Sonny James, yeah. Then as we get into the 60s, we've got like the Letterman and Beach Boys, Kingston Trio, Wayne Newton, Al Martino, and then the Beatles, Peter and Gordon, yeah, but I just thought that was such a cool find. I looked this up on like eBay and so on. Again, I think this is worth around $30. And it's in really nice condition, still in the shrink actually. So that, makes it even better. Alright, second to last one is Arthur Big Boy, and I don't know if it's Crudup or Crudup. I wasn't familiar with him, but it's one of those records. You look at it in a thrift store and you think, you got to get it. You just got it. It looks bluesy, and sure enough, it is blues. Now, this is not an original pressing. This is a later re-release from the 80s, maybe early 80s. It's on the collectibles label right here, which normally I avoid, but even this repress is possibly worth around $40. Now, it did have some mold on the back of it. I got almost all of it off. You can kind of see where it was up here. See how there's a little hole that was already there, but the rest of it was really nice. And in fact, it's still in the shrink, so I was kind of shocked that it had some mold on it. But I was like, I'm not gonna leave it there. I didn't even realize that the mold was on the sleeve. Actually, I thought it was on the shrink. In fact, and I thought it was just dirt, so I was just gonna take the shrink off until I looked at it. I was like, oh no, it's mold. But yeah, this is going to be an very interesting listen, I think. So it says, I'll read the back of it. It says, since that time, and then not too long ago, when America's folk music, the music of America's Negroes, became acceptable, even respectable, in those circles of snobbery, wherein all is probed and dissected and catalogued, myriads of tomes and scholarly treatises and ecstatic essays and erudite dissertations have been written about. Millions of words that add up to something like, the blues ain't nothing but a sad cat, digging himself a hole and trying to pull the earth in after him to cover himself. That's the way Arthur Big Boy Crudup. And I don't know if that is a quote from him, or it is in block quotes, or if it's a lyrics to one of his songs. I'm not sure. But yeah, so yes, that's the way Arthur Big Boy Crudup sums it up, and he ought to know because he remains one of the giants, one of the few remaining authentic purveyors of a music form that has provided the roots and the wellspring for whatever is truly American in music today. This was first pressed, in the 50s, I think in 57 or 58. I don't know if it says on here. I looked it up, and I'm pretty sure it was like 57 or 58, something like that. And again, this is a repress from, I think, the early 80s. But, I love music like this because... and I love it when music like this is repressed, because I always think, it's, bands like the Beatles or the Stones, Zeppelin, they're going to be repressed and repressed for eternity, right? But I always think, it would be so easy for music like this to get lost in kind of, the mists of time in the past, because people will forget about it, and it won't be repressed, and so any copies that are out there will start dwindling and deteriorating and so on. So again, I'm going to be very curious to take a listen to this. Alright, finally, last but not least, I was absolutely thrilled to find it. This is the Grail item. But potentially a $200 record, potentially easily a $200 record, in fact. Could be, on a good day, I've seen on eBay, mint copies of this will go for well over $1,000, but here we go. The Chirping Crickets, Buddy Holly. First pressing, 1957, mono. It's on the Brunswick label, which was a subsidiary of Decca Records. Here it is. Now, this is not in mint condition by any means. I've cleaned it up, and you know, it probably is a... It's not too far off VG Plus after being cleaned up. It's really not. And for a record that is 60 years old, no, 70. Geez, 70 years old. I think, you know, I think that's not bad. Not bad. All right, so let's give this a listen. Let's fire this up. This is another reason why it was a good to have kind of a wide angle. I can get up, you guys can still see me, and we can give this a play.
All of my love, all of my kissing, you don't know what you've been missing, oh boy. Oh boy, when you're with me, oh boy. Oh boy, the whole world can see that you are meant for me. All of my life.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Let's have a quick listen to That'll Be the Day. It's on side B. I'm deliberately not playing the whole side. I just don't want to get hit with any copyright infringements. So.
Well, that'll be the day when you say goodbye. Yes, that'll be the day when you make me cry. You say you're gonna leave, you know it's a lie, 'cause that'll be the day when I die, when you give me all your love.
I'm very pleased with the sound quality, actually. Very pleased. Okay, let's have a listen to Capitol Hits Through the Years as well. I want to give this a quick spin, especially the side 2, which has the late 60s on it, the Beatles and the Beach Boys and so on. So I'm gonna fire this up real quick. I'm just gonna start it towards the end.
1968. By the time I get to Phoenix, she'll be rising. Nothing's quite as pretty as Mary in the morning. Then my Mary wakes to love another day.
It's kind of interesting. So yeah, they just kind of have a little, not even an introduction really, just saying the year, and then they go straight into the music. Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, I'll have to give it a listen all the way through for sure.
But not to where I cannot see you walking on the back roads by the rivers flowing gentle on my mind.
Those were the days, my friend, we thought they'd never
Very cool. Very cool. So, you know, it goes to show again, if you, you know, I know that it can be very disheartening going to thrift stores. Time after time, you end up with nothing or next to nothing. And the truth is that with, you know, I've now been sort of back into vinyl for around 2 years, and the number of real scores that I've had at thrift stores, I was going to say you could count on one hand. You could probably count on two hands. But it's fewer than 10 easily. So you know, I'm averaging at best once every couple of months, but probably it's less than that. Because like I said, it's definitely less than 10. I've probably only ever had like 7 or 8 scores at thrift stores. So, you know, well, I guess if you divide 24 into 8, you know, 24 months into 8, that's 3. So, you know, at best every 3 months, I might find a good score at a thrift store. But this time I went way longer. It's been at least 6 months, probably more than that. So yeah, just if you persevere and keep looking, it takes luck, of course, like in anything. You know, I'm sure some people who just are getting back into vinyl, the very first thrift store they go to, they get some mega haul. I'm sure it's happened. And other people go months and months and months, or maybe even years. But you know, eventually you start finding stuff, and it definitely helps if you know, like that Chirping Crickets album. Some people would have passed it up because it's, you know, the top and bottom seams had splits in them and so on. But I happen to know that it was worth money because I've looked for that record before. So it definitely helps if you've done a bit of research, if you look around, and just kind of get a rough idea of what might, you know, like the Roy Orbison on Sun Records. You know, it's not worth a ton of money, like I said, like 20 or 30 bucks maybe. But just again, kind of a rule of thumb, if it's on Sun Records, just buy it, you know. Well, if the price is right, like anything. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks as always, guys, for watching, and yeah, sorry this video got a little choppy, I'm sure, in places, because I have the baby monitor behind me. My daughter kept crying. I've been going up and down the stairs, just trying desperately just saying to myself, come on, just give me 10 minutes to get the video finished, because she's up in bed right now. But anyway, we got here in the end. Thanks as always for watching, guys, and until next time, bye bye.